My name is John, and today I'm going to explain on FTP. So, what is FTP? The basics knowledge of FTP, and yeah, you are the administrator. What you need to understand, what you need to know on FTP, and there's some few configurations on FTP. Basically in Huawei devices. So I'm going to explain, or I'm going to show you how to configure FTP based on this simple network. So it has two router and one FTP server. So FTP basically it's a protocol that is used during the communications between clients and the FTP server. So what is FTP server? So FTP server, it's a server that is dedicated for file keeping. So it can store files in your network so that it can be accessible by by any user in the internet or locally in your network. So FTP server can support also downloading, uploading, and the transfer of the file from one position to another. Depends on the operation that is conducted by the users or the client in your network. So the FTP server is very important when you have the network. So you need to make sure that you have a place to keep your files. So any user, anytime, can go there and retrieve the information or the files that are stored by another user. So it's a shared place that can make your life in a network very simple, because file can be shared, transparent, and it is very convenient when it comes to file sharing and file keeping. So you need to deploy FTP when you need to install information, when you need to store files in your network. So it's very necessary. to have FTP server in your network. So because now you have FTP server, so we have a client that is going there for downloading or uploading or transfer the files from one position to another. So the clients, how is accessing the FTP server? So the FTP protocol, the file transfer protocol, is the one that is overseeing the process behind. So you just need to learn the commands to download or upload the files to the FTP server. Then FTP protocol will actually do that for you. So we have two types of FTP. So we have TFTP and SCFTP. So there is the one which is secure, and there is the one which is not secure. For the secure one, that means the information are transferred from one position to another, or the information or the process is secured. So all the information are encrypted while you are processing the file transfer, uploading, and downloading. But the tribal FTP, TFTP, is not secured. So the information is transmitted in the plain text format. So which is not recommended when it comes to security matters. So in my simple network here, I just have two router, named the remote router, local router, and a file server, which is FTP server. So you, as the network administrator, you can deploy FTP server in two modes. Either you can deploy a dedicated server, which will be there which will be bought from the store for just keeping the files, or you can use one of your network elements in your network to act as the FTP server. But when you opt for this second option, which is network elements, you have to make sure that the memories in your local network element is enough to keep the files. So don't change or don't deploy the FTP server in your network element while you don't have enough space for file keeping. So that is not recommended. So for that case, if your files, if your routers and the network elements are not they not have enough space, so you need to go for first option, which is deploying a dedicated server. So a dedicated server might have many different services. maybe a HTTPS server, maybe the web server, FTP server, the DNS server, DHCP server. So all of those services can be there. Also, the FTP server will be the one of the service. So you can deploy a dedicated server which is which will be there for file keeping. So probably for a dedicated server, we'll have enough space for file keeping and so on. So here I've deployed the internet as a means of showing that not we might not have a kind of this network. It's a point to point, but we'll have the internet between. That means a multiple connection of network elements, router, firewalls, switches, and so on. But for the case of elaborating the FTP, I just deployed here the internet and configure the internet as a point to point. So you might have a tunnel, you might have a VPN there to achieve to make sure that these 2 points, these 2 routers are reachable. So one of the, if you have a server in your network, so you have these two means of accessing the server. So the first mean, the safe means is you need first to make sure the address of the FTP server is reachable anywhere. The place that you need to remote login, example, if I am at a remote router here, so if the user is connected to this remote router and it needs to access FTP server which is deployed to a certain local router in a different network, you might have you need to make sure this network, the network of FTP server, is reachable from the remote router. It doesn't depend what kind of routing protocol are you using, or any kind of the protocol process you use to make sure the connection is the IP connectivity is accomplished. So it's a matter of deciding what kind of routing protocol or what kind of techniques that you can use to make sure the IP connectivity is reachable. So for my case here, I just use LEAP to make sure that this network, the FTP server network, is reachable from here remote router. So when you display the current configurations of the remote router, you can see some configurations that are already pre-configured. So like example, let's see what are present in this remote router. So in a remote router, you can just go in the remote router and then display interface description. You can display interface description, this interface description. So now you see we have this interface giga000, which is physical app and a protocol app, and the description of that interface is linked to a local router. So that means this interface giga00 is connected to a local router, which is present in another network there. So you can also check for the IP connectivity. So you can say display IP interface descriptions. So this command, I display IP interface description, will give you the IP address, will give you the port status, and also will give you the port description. So you can see here, so giga000, it has this IP address, and it is protocol app. Also, it's a link to a local router. So these are pre-configured. So we can try also to a local remote local router here. So go to the local router, run the command display IP interface description to see the IP pre-configured. So you see here we have two interfaces, which are up, and we have the description. So one interface is giga000, which is connected to a FTP server. So you see one of the interface, which is 000, is connected to the FTP server, and the IP address that is assigned on that interface is 10.0.0.1/2024. Also we have another interface, which is 0.0.0.1, which is connected to a remote router. So this giga0.0.1 is connected to a remote router. So we have a link here, which is completed by a remote router and a local router. So when you go to remote router and display the IP address of giga000, it will come 192.168.0.1, and the interface of local router, which is giga 001, is 192.168.0.1. so which means these points are point to point. So we can try ping test for the reachability. Just go and ping 192.168.0.1, which is the IP address of the remote router. So I am at local router now, trying to reach this IP address, or the IP address of the interface 000. So when you ping, now you see the point to point is reachable. So that is the first step that you need to make sure that you make it you completed it before you proceed with your test. So now the link between the remote router and the local router is fine. So what next? We have to make sure also the points between the FTP server